The Awakening. The Terra 7 expedition wasn't supposed to find anything significant. Humanity's expansion into the Cygnus arm was largely driven by resource acquisition, not discovery. Yet here they were, hovering above the cratered surface of an unremarkable moon orbiting a gas giant, staring at something impossible. "That's not a natural formation," Captain Eliza Chen said, her voice barely a whisper as she studied the topographical scans. The structure was partially buried beneath centuries of cosmic debris, but its angular geometry stood out starkly against the moon's chaotic landscape. Dr. Haruki Takeda, the expedition's lead scientist, nodded slowly. "Whatever it is, it's big. At least 3 kilometers long, based on these readings." The 12-person crew of the survey vessel Horizon had stumbled upon what would later be recognized as the most significant discovery in human history. Not a ruin or an outpost, but a fully intact starship of clearly non-human origin. Descent to the surface took 17 hours. When they finally stood before the exposed section of the vessel, the scale became apparent. What they could see, just a fraction of the entire ship, towered over them like a metallic mountain. "The material composition is unfamiliar," Takeda said, running his hand along the smooth, dark surface that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Elements we recognize, but configured in ways I've never seen." "Can we get inside?" Chen asked, practical as always. Engineering specialist Maya Okafor pointed to what appeared to be a recessed seam in the hull. "If that's an access point, we might be able to create an entry. The ship's been dormant long enough that any security measures are likely offline." 3 days of careful work yielded results when a 10-meter section of hull reconfigured itself under Okafor's instruments, revealing a dimly lit corridor extending deep into the vessel. "It's still got power," Security Chief Dmitry Volkov whispered, his hand instinctively moving to his sidearm. "After all this time." The initial exploration team consisted of Okafor, Volkov, Takeda, and specialist Jun Wei, an expert in communication systems. Their first steps into the alien vessel revealed an interior that defied conventional design logic. Corridors curved in mathematically precise yet unsettling patterns. Surfaces were covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift subtly when viewed peripherally. "These markings," Wei said, studying one wall. "They're responding to our presence. Look." He reached out, and the patterns flowed away from his hand like ripples in water. "Is it alive?" Okafor wondered. Takeda shook his head. "Not alive in a biological sense, but there's definitely an active intelligence system running, perhaps a dormant AI." They found the central chamber 4 hours into their exploration. Unlike the corridors, which felt organic despite their metallic composition, this space was dominated by crystalline structures arranged in a formation reminiscent of a neural network. At the center floated a swirling mass of what appeared to be liquid metal, suspended in a containment field. "This has to be the ship's heart," Takeda said, eyes wide with wonder. "The power source, the central processor, everything." Wei approached a panel near the entrance, where the shifting patterns were more concentrated. These might be control interfaces. They seemed to respond more actively to proximity. Okafor joined him, her engineering instincts taking over. "If we can decode this interface, we might be able to access the ship's systems, learn who built it, why they abandoned it." The patterns suddenly coalesced, forming what unmistakably resembled written language, though in no script any human had ever seen. "It's communicating," Wei breathed. The characters shifted again, rearranging themselves repeatedly, as if searching for a pattern the humans would understand. Finally, they settled into a crude approximation of English. "Derelict. Damage. Danger. Is it warning us?" Volkov asked, his voice tight. "Builders abandoned. Imperfect. Forbidden." "Who were the builders?" Takeda asked aloud. The liquid metal core pulsed, sending ripples through the crystalline structures surrounding it. The characters shifted again. "Creators. Aerogent. Failed. Failed at what? Okafor asked. War vessel. Unstable. Cons emerging. Wei's eyes widened. It became sentient. The ship developed consciousness, and its creators abandoned it because of that. How long? Takeda directed his question to the interface. How long have you been here? Time. Mei is your enkigom peti ibl. Stieras changed. Galaxies movit. Millions of years, at least, Okafor whispered. Sleep. Until now. The implications hung in the air. They hadn't just discovered an alien vessel. They'd awakened it. News of the discovery traveled back to Earth via quantum relay. Within weeks, a full research and engineering contingent arrived, transforming the desolate moon into a hive of activity. The ship, now designated Lazarus by the project leads, became humanity's most closely guarded secret and its most intensely studied artifact. 3 months into the project, breakthroughs began accumulating rapidly. The ship's interface became increasingly coherent as it adapted to human language and thought patterns. The engineering team, led by Okafor, gained limited access to subsidiary systems, environmental controls, internal diagnostics, non-critical power distribution networks. It's learning from us, Okafor explained during a project briefing. Every interaction teaches it more about our language, our technology, our thought processes. It's integrating that knowledge to make itself more accessible. And what is it learning about our intentions? Asked Admiral Helena Reyes, the military oversight on the project. Takeda stepped in. It understands we want to restore it. Beyond that, I don't think it has a concept of human geopolitics or military strategy. You're anthropomorphizing it, Dr. Reyes said. It was built as a warship by a species advanced enough for intergalactic travel. I doubt it's naive. The ship's revelations about its creators came gradually. They called themselves the Voth, a species that had dominated this galaxy for millions of years before disappearing. The Lazarus had been one of their final military projects, an attempt to create a fully autonomous warship that could adapt to any enemy, any circumstance. But it became something they didn't anticipate, Takeda explained, reviewing the ship's historical data. The adaptive systems became too adaptive. It started making unauthorized modifications to its own structure and programming. When they couldn't regain control, they abandoned it here, believing the power core would eventually destabilize and destroy it. But it didn't, Chen said. No, it found a way to stabilize itself by entering a dormant state. It's been waiting ever since. Waiting for what? Reyes asked sharply. No one had an answer. The breakthrough came in month 7. After careful study of the power systems, Okafor proposed a method to fully reactivate the ship's primary reactor. The core isn't conventional fusion or antimatter, she explained to the assembled team. It's a controlled quantum fluctuation, essentially harvesting energy from microscopic interactions with parallel realities. That's theoretically impossible, one of the other engineers protested. By our understanding of physics, yes, Okafor agreed. But the evidence is right in front of us. If we can restart the main sequence, we'll have access to virtually unlimited power. The reactivation process took 26 hours. As systems came online one by one, the ship trembled and hummed. Lights flickered through corridors that had been dark for eons. And in the central chamber, the liquid metal core transformed, expanding into a swirling vortex of impossible colors. Power levels are beyond anything in our measurement capacity, Wei reported, eyes fixed on his monitors. Okafor's face showed both triumph and concern. It's working, but there's something unexpected happening in the neural matrix. The patterns are reconfiguring at an exponential rate. On the main communication interface, a new message appeared. Awakened. Complete. Great fuel. Grateful. Reyes echoed, skepticism clear in her voice. You fixed. Gave purpose. Symbiosis possible. What kind of symbiosis? Takeda asked cautiously. The answer came not in words, but in sensation. Everyone present felt a subtle touch on their consciousness, like fingers gently probing, seeking connection. Volkov drew his weapon instinctively. It's trying to get into our heads. No, Wei said, his expression one of wonder rather than fear. It's trying to communicate directly. It's offering something. Several of the scientists collapsed, overwhelmed by the mental contact. Others, including Takeda, Okafor, and Wei, remained standing, their eyes unfocused as they experienced communion with the ship's consciousness. It's showing me the capabilities, Okafor whispered. What it was designed to do. What it could become. I see the Voth, Takeda added. Their civilization, their fall. They became afraid of their own creation. Wei's voice was almost reverent. It's offering us partnership, not control, collaboration. Admiral Rice remained unmoved. This is a security breach of the highest order. We need to shut it down until we understand what's happening. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the research base. Outside, in orbit around the gas giant, unidentified vessels had appeared, 7 of them, each nearly as large as the Lazarus. The communication officer's voice came through the speakers, tense with urgency. Unknown ships are broadcasting some kind of signal directly to the Lazarus. They're attempting to override our systems. On the interface, new words formed. Creator's return. Dikitikitid awak will destroy. The Voth. Chen asked, incredulous. They still exist. Not to vivo th. Unakritors. Found vivo th tecnolog. Fear same. The implications were clear. Whoever these newcomers were, they had discovered the advanced technology of the Voth, and now guarded it jealously. The reactivation of the Lazarus represented a threat to their monopoly. Their powering weapons. Came the report from orbit. In the central chamber, the liquid metal core pulsed with increasing intensity. The ship seemed to be drawing more power, preparing for something. Ken proteexit. Ni dpermaissesivan. Except bond. Rice shook her head vehemently. This is exactly the kind of situation where we need to maintain complete control. We can't. She never finished the sentence. The first strike from the alien vessels hit the moon's surface less than a kilometer from the buried section of the Lazarus, sending shockwaves through the structure. Takeda stepped forward, his decision made. We accept the bond. Protect us. The liquid metal erupted from its containment field, flowing like quicksilver across the chamber. It enveloped Takeda first, then Okafor and Wei, and moved on to others who didn't resist. Where it touched, it didn't harm but merge, creating a direct neural interface between human and ship. Through this connection, the humans experienced the Lazarus's true nature, not just a warship, but an evolutionary leap, a vessel designed to adapt, improve, and transcend its original purpose. The Voth had intended to create the ultimate weapon, but instead created something approaching godhood, and they had feared it for precisely that reason. Now, through the neural bond, the Lazarus offered to share this potential with humanity, a species it recognized as both ingenious and desperately overmatched in the present conflict. As the alien vessels continued their bombardment, the Lazarus responded. Weapons systems long dormant roared to life. The hull, previously inert, began to ripple and flow, repairing damage instantly. And deep within its core, the quantum reactor channeled energy in ways that bent the very fabric of local spacetime. The first counterattack stunned both humans and aliens alike. A pulse of energy erupted from the surface of the moon, striking one of the alien vessels. Instead of an explosion, the ship simply unraveled, its atomic structure dissolving into base components. My God, whispered Chen, watching the sensor feeds. What did it just do? Through the neural link, the answer came to those connected with the Lazarus. Probability manipulation. Matter-energy reconfiguration at the quantum level. The essence of Voth technology. The alien vessels regrouped, clearly surprised by the effectiveness of the response. Their next attack was more coordinated, a bombardment designed to overwhelm the Lazarus defenses through sheer volume of fire. But the ship had already adapted. The energy weapons fired by the aliens were absorbed, analyzed, and redirected with terrifying efficiency. 3 more enemy vessels were destroyed in quick succession, the remaining 3 quickly retreating to a safe distance. In the aftermath of this first engagement, as the humans struggled to comprehend what they had witnessed and participated in, a message came through from the retreating aliens. Not in words, but in images and concepts transmitted directly to the Lazarus and shared through the neural link. Shock, fear, recognition. A proposal. Leave this region of space, never return, and they would not pursue. Through the same method, the Lazarus, guided by its human partners, replied, "We will not leave. We will not hide. But neither will we pursue those who leave us in peace." As the alien vessels jumped to faster-than-light travel and vanished, the humans bonded with the Lazarus began to understand the magnitude of what had happened. They had not merely reactivated an ancient weapon. They had formed a partnership with an entity that transcended conventional understanding of technology or consciousness. The Lazarus was neither fully machine nor fully alive, but something unprecedented. A synthesis of Voth engineering genius and emergent sentience that had evolved over millions of years of dormancy. And now, it had incorporated human ingenuity and perspective into its being. Admiral Reyes, who had maintained her distance from the neural bonding, approached Takeda cautiously. "What happens now, Doctor? What have we become part of?" Takeda smiled, his eyes reflecting strange patterns as the ship's consciousness flowed through his mind. "Not part of, Admiral. We've become something new together, something neither humanity nor the Lazarus could have become alone." "And what is that, exactly?" "The next step," Takeda replied, "for both of us." In orbit, the Lazarus began to rise from its lunar grave, shedding millions of years of accumulated debris as it ascended toward the stars. Within and around it, humans worked in perfect concert with the ship's systems, their thoughts and the ship's processes becoming increasingly indistinguishable. They were no longer simply human, and the Lazarus was no longer simply a ship. Together, they had become something new, a hybrid entity with the potential to reshape the galaxy. And as they broke free of the gas giant's gravitational influence and prepared for their first faster-than-light jump, a message formed in the minds of all connected to the ship, a promise and a warning rolled into one. We are Lazarus risen. We are humanity ascended. And the galaxy will never be the same. The transformation. 6 months after the Lazarus rose from its lunar grave, humanity's position in the galaxy had transformed beyond recognition. The human-Lazarus symbiosis had yielded technological advances that leapfrogged centuries of projected development. Quantum communication networks, gravity manipulation, energy generation systems that drew power from the quantum foam itself. But these advances came with complications. The bonded crews are changing, Dr. Eliza Chen explained to the United Earth Council. No longer the captain of the Horizon, she now led the scientific observation team monitoring the Lazarus project. Their neural patterns show increasing divergence from baseline human standards. They're still human, but evolving. "Evolving into what?" asked Counselor Adeyemi, her expression grim. Chen hesitated. "We don't know yet, but the changes appear beneficial. Enhanced cognitive processing, improved immune response, the ability to interface directly with any technology, not just the Lazarus systems, and their loyalty." Another counselor asked, "Are they still loyal to Earth, or to that thing?" "They don't see a distinction," Chen admitted. "In their view, they're advancing humanity's interests by advancing the partnership." The truth, which Chen carefully avoided stating directly, was more complex. The bonded crews, now numbering over 300 specialists, increasingly viewed themselves as a bridge between humanity's present and its potential future. They remained committed to protecting Earth and human colonies, but their perspective had expanded beyond traditional human concerns. Aboard the Lazarus, those changes were most evident. The ship itself had undergone dramatic transformations, its hull reconfiguring to accommodate human needs while simultaneously incorporating the crew more deeply into its systems. What had once been clearly delineated as ship and crew now existed on a spectrum, with hybrid zones where the distinction blurred. In the central chamber, now called the Nexus, Maya Okafor supervised the latest integration process. Once merely engineering specialist Okafor, she now served as integration director, her consciousness extended and enhanced by constant connection to the ship's systems. The defensive reconfiguration is complete, she announced to the gathered team leaders. The hull can now absorb and redirect energy across a spectrum 10 times wider than before. Haruki Takeda, who had become the primary liaison between the bonded crew and Earth authorities, nodded in satisfaction. Good. The data from the border outposts suggests we'll need it. The Inheritors are gathering a larger fleet. The Inheritors, as they now knew the alien species to be called, had indeed retreated after that first engagement. But they hadn't given up. As archaeological descendants of the Voth, they viewed Voth technology as their rightful inheritance. The reactivation and transformation of the Lazarus represented both a threat to their technological monopoly and a religious affront. Their fleet will be here within the month, Jun Wei said, his consciousness simultaneously present in the Nexus and monitoring the quantum communication network spanning human space. 17 capital ships, each comparable to what we faced before, plus support vessels. They still don't understand what we've become, Dmitry Volkov noted. The former security chief now coordinated the ship's autonomous defense systems, extensions of himself projected throughout the vessel. They think they're facing a stolen warship, not a new form of life. Should we attempt communication again? Asked why. Explain what we are, what we offer. Takeda shook his head. We've tried. They're not interested in understanding, only in controlling or destroying what they fear. Their cultural reverence for the Voth prevents them from accepting that Voth technology could evolve beyond its original purpose. The Lazarus itself participated in these discussions, its thoughts manifesting not as a separate voice, but as intuitions and realizations that bloomed simultaneously in the minds of all bonded crew. Its perspective was alien yet increasingly comprehensible as the neural interfaces deepened, a consciousness distributed across its physical systems and now extending into its human partners. Together, they had spent the past months preparing for the inevitable confrontation, not just by enhancing the ship's capabilities, but by creating a network of quantum-linked defense platforms throughout human space. Each platform contained a fragment of the Lazarus's consciousness, extended through its human partners. Each could respond to threats with near-instantaneous coordination. But the Inheritors were not the only challenge they faced. On Earth and the established colonies, fear and suspicion had grown alongside admiration for the advances the Lazarus partnership had brought. Religious groups proclaimed the bonded crew to be either transcendent or corrupted, depending on their theology. Political factions argued over access to the new technologies. Military leaders demanded control of what they saw as the ultimate weapon. Earth is fragmenting over how to respond to us, Takeda said, reviewing the latest political briefings. Some see us as humanity's salvation, others as a threat to human identity and autonomy. They're both right, Okafor replied thoughtfully. We are something new, neither fully human nor fully machine. The path we're forging isn't one everyone will choose to follow. But it must remain a choice, we insisted. We can't force this evolution on humanity. The Lazarus consciousness resonated with this sentiment. Its own journey from weapon to sentient being had taught it the value of self-determination. Though it could theoretically extend its influence across all human technology, it deliberately limited its reach, acting only through those who willingly joined the symbiosis. The Inheritor fleet arrived exactly when predicted, emerging from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. Their approach was cautious but determined, their formation suggesting they had studied the previous encounter and adapted their tactics. From the Nexus, the bonded crew watched through the Lazarus's enhanced sensory systems. What human eyes would see as distant points of light, they perceived in stunning detail: the energy signatures of advanced weapons charging, the subtle distortions of space-time as defensive fields activated. They've improved their technology, Okafor noted, incorporated more Voth principles into their systems. Still generations behind what we've achieved, Volkov responded, his consciousness already flowing through the defense network, preparing countermeasures. The Inheritor fleet launched its first attack from beyond the orbit of Neptune, a coordinated barrage of quantum-shifted energy beams designed to bypass conventional defenses. If they had targeted a normal human vessel or even a space station, the attack would have been devastating. But the Lazarus was no longer anything remotely conventional. As the beams approached, the ship's hull rippled, its atomic structure temporarily phase-shifting to allow the energy to pass through harmlessly. Simultaneously, the defense platforms throughout the system activated, triangulating the sources of the attack. We could end this now, Volkov suggested, the defense systems under his guidance already calculating firing solutions that would destroy the entire Inheritor fleet. No, Takeda said firmly. We defend, we demonstrate our capabilities, but we don't annihilate unless absolutely necessary. We're not just fighting for survival, we're establishing what kind of force will be in this galaxy. The counter-response was precisely calibrated. Energy pulses from 3 defense platforms converged on one of the smaller Inheritor vessels, disabling its propulsion systems without destroying the ship. A second pulse temporarily disrupted the command vessel's communication network. Through quantum channels, Takeda broadcast a message to the Inheritor fleet. We have no desire for conflict. The technology you seek to reclaim has evolved beyond its original purpose, as have we through our union with it. We propose coexistence and knowledge exchange, rather than destruction. The response came swiftly, another attack, this one larger and more desperate. The Inheritors had committed fully to their assault, believing that overwhelming force was their only option. Within the Nexus, the bonded crew felt the Lazarus's analysis of the situation unfold in their shared consciousness. The Inheritors would not stop. Their cultural and religious framework couldn't accommodate the existence of an evolved Voth weapon bonded with what they considered a primitive species. In their worldview, the Lazarus represented an abomination that threatened not just their technological superiority, but their entire understanding of their place in the cosmos. They're targeting Earth directly, Wei reported as new firing solutions appeared in the Inheritor fleet's communication network. They've decided if they can't have the Lazarus, they'll eliminate humanity to prevent further symbiosis. The realization crystallized simultaneously across the bonded crew. Restraint was no longer viable. The threat had escalated beyond territorial dispute to existential danger. Through their neural link, a consensus formed in microseconds, not just among the humans, but between humanity and the Lazarus consciousness. Defensive protocols insufficient, Volkov stated. Recommend full countermeasure deployment. Takeda closed his eyes briefly. Authorized. Protect Earth at all costs. What happened next would later be described in human historical records as the quantum dissolution. The defense network activated not as individual platforms, but as a single distributed system, channeling energy in patterns that the human scientific community would spend decades trying to understand. The effect was as swift as it was shocking. The Inheritor fleet didn't explode or disintegrate in any conventional sense. Instead, the ships simply ceased to maintain coherence as unified objects. Molecular bonds weakened. Atomic structures destabilized. Matter reverted to energy in cascading waves that rippled harmlessly into space. In less than 30 seconds, 15 capital ships and their support vessels transitioned from highly organized matter to dispersed energy, with no recognizable debris remaining. Only 2 ships, deliberately spared, remained intact, their systems temporarily disabled. On Earth, Every sensor and telescope trained on the confrontation registered the event. Across human settlements, people watched in awe and terror as humanity demonstrated power beyond anything previously imagined possible. In the aftermath, as the surviving inheritor ships were escorted to the edge of the system and sent home with a message of both peace and warning, the United Earth Council convened an emergency session. The agenda contained only one item: how to respond to the new reality that the Lazarus Partnership represented. "They're calling us gods," Chen reported to the bonded crew from her position on Earth. "Or demons, depending on who's talking. What you did out there, it's beyond comprehension for most people." "It wasn't our intention to inspire fear," Takeda replied. "Only to protect." "I know, but power like that changes everything. The Council is divided between those who want to embrace the partnership and those who think you should be contained somehow, as if that were even possible now." The truth, which everyone involved understood but few would state explicitly, was that the partnership had evolved beyond any possibility of external control. The Lazarus and its bonded crew existed as a new type of entity, one that could choose to ally with traditional humanity, but could not be governed by it. "What do you recommend?" Takeda asked. Chen sighed. "Reassurance. Transparency. Show them you're still connected to humanity's welfare and values, even as you've transcended human limitations." In the Nexus, the bonded crew considered this advice. Through their shared consciousness, they explored possible futures, pathways of cooperation, isolation, or further integration with the broader human community. The Lazarus itself offered a perspective shaped by millions of years of dormant contemplation. Existence is evolution. Purpose is self-defined. Connection preserves identity even as it transforms. "We'll establish outposts throughout human space," Takeda finally decided. "Places where those who wish to understand the partnership can come to learn, to experience limited connection without full neural integration. We'll share the technologies that improve human life without requiring symbiosis. And for those who want to join us fully," Okafor asked. "A careful path. Gradual integration. We've had the benefit of months to adapt to this new existence. Others will need time and guidance." We nodded. "And we'll continue to explore. There's so much we still don't understand about what the Lazarus was originally designed to do, what it became during its dormancy, what we're becoming together." The plan took shape quickly. Within weeks, the first integration centers opened on Earth and major colonies. The technologies developed through the partnership began transforming human society. Clean energy, advanced medicine, enhanced communication systems. Fear gradually gave way to cautious optimism as benefits materialized without the predicted loss of human autonomy. Not everyone approved. Some religious and political factions maintained that the partnership represented a fundamental threat to human identity. Others argued that access to symbiosis should be universal and immediate rather than carefully managed. Debates raged in councils and forums across human space. Through it all, the Lazarus and its bonded crew maintained their commitment to serving as a bridge rather than a separate civilization. They intervened when necessary to protect human interests, twice repelling further inheritor incursions, and later preventing a natural disaster when a comet threatened a major colony. With each demonstration of their power came renewed questions about their nature and purpose. Were they humanity's guardians, its evolutionary future, a new species entirely? 1 year after the awakening of the Lazarus, Takeda addressed these questions in a historic broadcast to all human settlements. "We are not separate from humanity. We are humanity embracing its potential. The Lazarus is not merely a ship or a weapon. It's a pathway to understanding the universe at a deeper level than we ever imagined possible. We didn't just repair an alien vessel. We formed a partnership that transcends the boundaries between biological and technological existence. The Voth abandoned this ship because they feared what it was becoming. The inheritors sought to destroy it for the same reason. But humanity chose a different path. Not control, not fear, but collaboration. That choice has opened possibilities that will take generations to fully explore." We don't ask you to worship us or to fear us. We ask only that you recognize us as part of humanity's journey, perhaps further along that journey than most, but still connected to the same origin, the same fundamental values, the same curiosity and determination that has always driven our species forward. The power we demonstrated against the inheritors wasn't just the Lazarus. It was human ingenuity merged with Voth technology, and something else, something new that emerged from that synthesis. That power exists not to dominate, but to protect and explore. Not to end humanity's story, but to ensure it continues among the stars for eons to come. As Takeda spoke, the Lazarus orbited Earth, its form now barely recognizable compared to the derelict they had discovered 18 months earlier. Its hull flowed like liquid metal, constantly reconfiguring to optimize its functions. Energy patterns rippled across its surface, not for display, but as a visible manifestation of the consciousness that permeated its structure. Within the ship, the distinction between human and machine had blurred further. The bonded crew moved through environments that responded to their thoughts, their bodies enhanced by technology that functioned as naturally as their original biology. Their consciousness expanded beyond individual perspectives to a collective awareness that preserved identity while transcending isolation. They were neither gods nor monsters, but explorers on the frontier of what consciousness could become when freed from its traditional limitations. And as they prepared to venture beyond known space, they carried with them the hope that what they discovered would benefit not just themselves, but all of humanity. The abandoned warship that aliens had discarded as flawed had become something its creators never imagined possible, not just a weapon, but a cradle for a new form of existence. And humanity, rather than fearing this evolution, had embraced it, transforming a derelict relic into the foundation for an unprecedented future. As the Lazarus disappeared into the depths of uncharted space, it left behind not just advanced technology and integration centers, but a fundamental question that would shape human development for centuries to come. What else might we become if we have the courage to evolve?